What's good, guys? I'm Dave, and in this video I'm going to talk about some popular but lesser known nationally restaurant chains that got their start in Colorado. Whenever I travel, one of my favorite things to do is to try the local fast food or quick serve place that's super popular in the place that I'm visiting. And I realize it's kind of weird to get excited about trying fast food, but it's kind of my thing. Even when some of these restaurants aren't particularly good, it's usually different than what I'm used to, and it doesn't cost a lot to explore what people eat somewhere else. In general, I just really like trying new things, so maybe you're like me and you do stuff like this. Maybe I'm all alone and this video gets 3 views, but whatever, let's just go with it. A lot of mega chains got their start in Colorado, including Chipotle, Qdoba, Quiznos, and Noodles Co. And before it expanded out to 40 other states, Smashburger also got its start in Colorado. That's already a lot of really well-known chains, but if you're visiting Denver, let me show you some of the lesser-known but very popular chains that are also here in Colorado. With Chipotle and Qdoba already getting their start in Colorado, you might have thought that we've done enough quick-serve Mexican, but you'd be wrong. There's always room for another, and that place is Illegal Pete's, a more edgy and local in feel place that's very similar to Chipotle. There are around 10 locations throughout the area, and it's definitely less corporate feeling than the CrossFitter favorite that Chipotle has become today. The staff at Illegal Pete's is usually super laid back, and sometimes the music that they play in some of the locations can be a little bit terrifying, but that's kind of part of the appeal. One time, an employee gave me a free drink just because I was wearing a Denver Nuggets t-shirt and knew that Facu Campazzo was coming to the Nuggets, so Facu, if you watch this video, I owe you a free drink at Illegal Pete's. Personally, I prefer Illegal Pete's over Chipotle because you get a lot more variety there. There's more salsas, they have jalapenos, different kinds of veggies, and things like that. While the shape of the food and the prices are very similar to Chipotle, I would say that the flavors are a lot bigger at Illegal Pete's. So if you're in town and you're looking for a quick serve burrito or burrito bowl that's a little different than what you have at home, check out Illegal Pete's. Next is a fast food place that a lot of people go to in Colorado pretty often, Good Times. They're known for doing all natural burgers and antibiotic-free chicken sandwiches and chicken tenders, but in the end, it's just a pretty solid fast food spot. It's pretty good all around, and the food just feels a little less heavy than your typical fast food place. They certainly don't have the halo of an In-N-Out or a Shake Shack, but Good Times does a lot of things really well. The burgers are good, the wild fries are borderline great, they have a very familiar menu that won't blow your mind, but everything is pretty solid there. They also do a dessert for dogs, and really, who's mad at that? This isn't a healthy food place, this is still a fast food spot, but it does have more of that more natural feel, so you might feel a little bit better when you're eating it. You might down a large Dr. Pepper with your meal, but at least some of the food in terms of the ingredients might be a little bit healthier than your typical fast food place. If you're enjoying this video so far, please give it a like to help more people learn about these chains that got started in Colorado. Now back to the video. While this is no tiny chain with over 30 locations now, Santiagos still has some of that local cred. The breakfast burritos here, while small, are the cool version of bringing donuts to the office. They're pretty cheap and they're a fan favorite. People will always be happy if they see you walking in with a bag of Santiagos. Personally, I get my breakfast burritos spicy with bacon. If you have a low spice tolerance though, just stick with the mild. I've seen a lot of people who have a low spice tolerance that kind of ruin their Santiagos experience by trying to go big. While most people know Santiagos for its breakfast burritos, they actually have a pretty extensive menu that includes things like burritos, fajitas, enchiladas, and things like that. They're all pretty good. I'm not really sure why, but the chips at Santiagos are also pretty good, so definitely pick up some chips and salsa when you get your 2 or 3 breakfast burritos. I definitely want to give a warning that some of the locations that have drive-thrus can have really long lines in the morning from people picking up breakfast burritos, so if you're able to get out of your car, walk in, order, pick up, and leave, that's often the right move in the morning. Okay, so full disclosure, this next place I do not like. They have locations in Colorado, Arizona, Texas, and California. Tokyo Joe's is just not my favorite chain in the world. Tokyo Joe's got its start here, and clearly I'm into Asian food, but I'm not really into fake Asian food, which is kind of how I would describe Tokyo Joe's. And I'm sorry if this makes me sound like a hater. I live right next to a Tokyo Joe's, and I've had it many times. I'm just not a big fan. They're pretty much known for making build-your-own teriyaki bowls, but I kind of think that they taste like the frozen ones that you can get at Costco. They recently started doing subpar poke bowls, but you can get a much better, much more filling poke bowl at a Colorado chain called Poke City. And I know that Tokyo Joe's has a lot of fans because hypothetically, in theory, you could build yourself a healthier seeming lunch there, but I'm just not a big fan of the flavors. Tokyo Joe's is kind of like a borderline fast food Asian food spot. If you're into a place like Yoshinoya, you might like Tokyo Joe's. I'm not a big fan of Yoshinoya from when I was living in LA, so also I'm not a big fan of Tokyo Joe's. If you're visiting Denver and you're looking for some Asian food in the city, I made a whole video on my favorite Asian restaurants in and around Denver, and I'll link to that in the description. Next, we have a local sandwich place called Snarfs, which I would say is definitely better than Subway and even a step up from a place like Jersey Mike's. There's not really a whole lot that separates Snarfs from another good sandwich shop that you might have around you, but it's kind of like Good Times. It's a good place to pick up food at a pretty cheap price. I do think that their toasted bread is really good, and you could add peppers and other things to your sandwiches that kind of spice up an otherwise pretty ordinary sandwich menu. If you're a big sandwich person, you want to eat on a budget and just want to pick up something different than what you're used to, Snarfs might be a good local sandwich shop for you to check out. Depending on where you're visiting Denver from, you might have one near you, but Snooze AM started in Denver and it's one of the best brunch spots that we have in the area. The locations are generally really fun and have a nice upbeat, bright vibe to them, but they do get very, very busy. Pro tip, you can visit Snooze's website and add yourself to the waitlist online, and that can save you a ton of time if you're trying to check out a Snooze. If you're coming here for the first time, it's worth getting the pancake flight to share with the table so everyone can try a few different pancake flavors before you order whatever you want for breakfast. I included Snooze on my list of the best restaurants in Denver for regular people, and I'll link to that in the description as well. Next is one of our chain gems for healthy, quick serve food, Modern Market. I've heard that the cool kids like to call it Mod Market, but I'm not going to try and pull that off. Since getting its start in Colorado, Modern Market has made its way out to a few other states, but if you've been to like a Tender Greens or even a True Food Kitchen, really any place where you can order a healthy-ish protein aside and put it on a plate for a reasonable price, you'll be right at home at Modern Market. Back when going to work was a thing, I used to actually have a Modern Market down the street from my office, and I used to go there all the time. It's just one of those places that you never regret going to. It's definitely healthier than most quick serve places. It might be a little bit more expensive, but you'll always find something that you like there. More and more of these seem to be closing every week, but Garbanzo got its start in Colorado, and it's kind of our Chipotle of Greek food, which sounds really good in theory, but the execution isn't as good as you want it to be. Instead of burritos, you can get pitas, you can still get salads and bowls, you get cucumbers and olives instead of fajita veggies, you get hummus instead of salsas. It's kind of like that. Back when there was a Garbanzo that was near me, I used to go every couple months and it just never really came out as good as I thought it might. The salads always came out a little bit wet and the pitas are not that big, so it wasn't super filling. Outside of COVID, I'm not really sure why a lot of the locations have been closing. Maybe a lot of people feel the same way as I do, but Garbanzo is still an interesting take on a different kind of Chipotle, just with Greek food. Outside of these franchises and chains that I mentioned in this video, do not sleep on some of the restaurants in Denver that have multiple locations. A lot of times they just have multiple locations because they've been successful. Denver Biscuit Company has a few different locations and is probably one of our best brunch places in the city. Cherry Cricket has a couple locations, and it could be Denver's most beloved burger. Marco's and Blue Pan both have multiple locations, and they're two of our best pizza places in Denver. Sushi Katsu has a few different locations, and that's probably our best all-you-can-eat sushi spot. Just because a restaurant has multiple locations, it doesn't mean that it's been watered down for the masses. A lot of times in Denver, it just means that the Denver metro area is pretty big, so they just opened up a few locations because they were successful. Whether you just moved here or you're coming here for a visit, I hope that this video helped you navigate some of the quick serve and fast food signs that you might see when you're driving around Colorado. If you've made it this far, please give this video a like or share it with that friend who's always down to explore new places with you, even if they might be a little cheap. If you're watching this video from another state, definitely add your local favorites and chains to the comments and let us know where we can find them. I'd love to check them out whenever I'm in your state. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully I'll catch you out and about in Denver.